What ho? It's your boy, Jack Slack, Fights Gone By podcast, coming at you on Thursday the 3rd of October, the spookiest month. Now, we've got lots to talk about today, not an awful lot of news. Holm versus Pennington is off, if anyone cared about that. Really, Holly Holm just drawing a paycheck now. People know her name. So basically, only people who haven't seen her fight or really like her boring style of fighting are gonna watch her. Based on her name value. Then, on the subject of boring fights, we've got Covington versus Usman booked as the UFC 245 main event. I imagine that's going to go down well with the BMF crew who are looking forward to the UFC 244 event. And then Wanderlei Silva signed with Bare Knuckle FC. That was the really big news story of the week. Tragic, but it's the place that makes most sense for a guy who can't stop a takedown, but has tons of scar tissue on his face. And also can't take a punch very well anymore. But anyway, that's our news. Let's we'll do the previews later in the show. I'll timestamp them on the YouTube or whatever. But let's talk about some of these events that happened over the weekend, because it was a chock-a-block weekend. Wasn't all great, it wasn't like big fight weekend, but there was a lot going on, and there was ADCC, which of course I'm going to talk about. Haven't caught up on all the ADCC because there's like 12 hours of grappling each day over 2 mats. So, there's a lot going on, but there's some cool stuff we should talk about, because I know you guys are all interested in sort of like grappling trends, because they'll come over to MMA eventually, we imagine. But let's start with Cannonier versus Jack Hermansson, because that was the big one this weekend, the one we were all looking forward to. And I tweeted it immediately before the fight, just summing up my thoughts, but both my article and my podcast last week were like, Jack Hermansson has been very comfortable in front of some big bangers, but also looked really uncomfortable in front of some other big bangers. Against Thiago Santos, he looked really petrified and didn't get anything going. But then against Jacare, he's absolutely fine and putting it all together. And I said that, if you can't, this is where the mental stuff in fighting comes in, because you can be capable of doing the feints and building off the feints and stuff, and a lot of fighters don't even get to that level. They're not comfortable using convincing feints and building off the feints. But Hermansson's at that level where he can. But even then, if you come in and you're doubting yourself, or you're like, oh, well, this guy hits really hard or whatever, you do the Overeem thing, where all your technical ability just doesn't matter because you're actually I want to say scared, but they're scared and they're scared. They're scared as one of us would be in against Jared Cannonier. But I mean, Hermansson, what Hermansson and Overeem do is second guess themselves, and then they never get going. And that's exactly what happened to Hermansson in this one. He completely froze up. The jabs weren't there, the feints weren't there, they weren't convincing when they were. He dived after the takedown right away. I mean, I said it afterwards, but Jared Cannonier made Jack Hermansson fight like Dave Branch, because we all said Dave Branch just ran at him and tried to duck on his hips, which is what Dave Branch does in every fight. But Jack Hermansson's better than that, typically. My thinking was Hermansson should be good enough that, and this is what he has been in his previous fights, if he's losing on the feet, or if he's struggling on the feet, he'll still stand long enough to convince the opponent they're standing, and then get on the hips. Whereas this one, it was try for a takedown attempt, don't get it, and where that should have been cool, we'll go back to that later. It was shit, I better go double hard for it and try and finish a takedown attempt. It's round one, mate. Calm down, And Cannonier, fuck, I'm so bad at saying his name, but Jared is typically, despite this huge weight cut, or this weight transformation rather, he's always typically had pretty good conditioning, even up at heavyweight. The problem is, when guys touched his legs, he just couldn't get up off the floor. And he seems to have mitigated that by coming down to middleweight and keeping a good deal of that heavyweight strength. He's actually just pulling dudes off his legs now. And he hit a couple of stand-ups. I think he hit one in this fight and one versus Branch. But anyway, it's helped him a lot coming down to middleweight. But, I mean, you saw just how predictable Hermansson's shots were when he basically, the knockout, he threw out a half-assed jab after not establishing it at all. When we say establishing the jab, we mean putting it out there, snapping it in their face, so that every time the jab's coming, they're thinking, I'm getting jabbed in the face, rather than, well, he's throwing the jab, so he's definitely going to duck on my hips now, which is what you get with almost every wrestler. The jab and shoot. And you're like, I know what's coming. You're basically just telling me that you're prepare for the shot. I said after this, never got his jab going, and someone was like, he jabbed immediately before the knockout, mate. Well, clearly Cannonier can deal with the jab, because that's what happened. No, he jabbed and then he dived after his hips, and Cannonier wasn't even bothered by the jab because it wasn't established. There wasn't anything before that to suggest that he should be bothered about the jab. It was a very clear non-jab, and then he hit him with an uppercut as he came in. It was one of those ones that looked like he hit him with the wrist almost coming up, but smashed him in the head. Hermansson seemed hurt by it. Like, it wasn't, knockout. It was like Hermansson sort of went to his back, and maybe a lesser fighter would have been like, oh, he just stumbled. He's, because he was playing it off okay, but Cannonier just went nuts on him and got the finish. Very impressive from Cannonier. That's such a step up from, old Anderson Silva and, very wild and one-note Dave Branch. Though that does mean that only 2 of his 3 opponents in the UFC middleweight division have been drug cheats. But Anderson Silva probably has enough drug cheats to make up for a couple of non-drug cheats. So middleweight continues to be a strange and exciting division. Now we've got Cannonier, Costa, Gastelum, all those guys in the top sort of, after Izzy and Whittaker have resolved whoever's the winner out of that. We've got some interesting fights there. Hermansson obviously jumped back in with another top middleweight and probably, they're not like scary power like Cannonier. He probably picks up the win or gets back into title contention immediately. But anyway, other stuff on this card wasn't a whole lot, to be honest, because, the things that we were looking forward to, aside from Nicholas Delby coming back, which is great fun, Ismail Nadev was on the card, and I completely sort of overlooked him because Sayer Bahadazura was his opponent, and I was just focused on Sayer. Nadev really impressed me in his first fight in the UFC, and then, was that Michel Prazeres, or was that the next one? Anyway, his second fight wasn't as impressive. That was Chance, whatever his name is. But he looked good there. What else was good? Really not an awful lot of good stuff on this card, to be honest. I really enjoyed Giga Chikadze versus Brandon Davis. I'm astonished that it was a split decision because it felt like it was pretty clear that Chikadze was kicking Brandon Davis's head in. But you saw all of the Chikadze look. He was timing an overhand very well on Davis when Davis put out like a lazy jab. He was scoring lots of good kicks, and he kept doing that thing that I told you to look out for last week, where he steps back, he throws a combination, steps back, as in like steps his left foot back behind him, so his lead foot becomes his rear foot, and then as the opponent moves in, he kicks him in the body, and he did that a couple of times, worked really nicely. It's such a clever move, because you're showing the opponent a combination and you're retreating. That's what they see, and they go, okay, well, now it's my turn to come back in, because everyone's on tit-for-tat exchanges, and then you hit them in the body with the body kick as they step in, without having to do a switch step or anything like that, which would very obviously telegraph it. But yeah, pretty crazy, because Brandon Davis, without being like too memey about Zabit, he gave Zabit a really good fight on the feet. He jabbed him up, low kicked him. Basically, Zabit had to take him down. That's how that went. So pretty impressive. Chikadze's an experienced kickboxer, but pretty cool to take Brandon Davis apart like that. And Brandon Davis really, I thought he'd be better off with the takedowns, but he didn't apply them very well at all. Nicholas Delby's fight with Alex Oliveira was great. Really good fun. Got very angry because Alex Oliveira kept cheating, because I said he's going to cheat, and he did. What was there? I think he faked an eye poke at one point. Grabbed the fence, because he always does. Grabbed the glove, I believe. There was one moment, there was a very strange ref in this fight. There was one moment where he fouled Dalby as he was being taken down, like in the process of consolidating the position, and the referee said, hey, broke him up, warned him, and then let them start from the feet again. That's just giving him what he wanted. But Oliveira on a 3-fight losing streak now, and Dalby looked good. Really fun karate stuff. Like I said, his hands have been getting better. So yeah, good to see my boy back. And of course, he's Danish, so they all went nuts for him. I was wondering if Brandon Davis is a little bit Danish, because the judge that saw it for him, I just can't understand that. And then the other, like the light heavyweight stuff, was not great, to be honest. Ion Cutelaba took down Khalil Roundtree and elbowed him very quickly. The douchiest stare down in the world. He comes out and screams in Khalil Roundtree's face. You're like, fucking hell, you are such a dipshit. So can't wait to see Ian Cutelaba lose again, as he almost inevitably will in his next fight, if he fights anyone decent, because he's about that level. You know, it's him and Khalil Roundtree. They're there where they fight these sort of mid-range light heavyweights, do well, they fight a better light heavyweight, they lose, and then they go back down. But yeah, people are now expecting Roundtree to go away and become, I don't know, what is an American wrestling city? Iowa Hawkeye already, Khalil Roundtree. Yeah, I mean, that's bad. He'd been working so much on his Muay Thai, and it'd been looking so good in that Eric Anders fight, and then he was just taken down easily in this one. And that's certainly not the sort of advertising that Tiger Muay Thai want. You know, and the whole pitch is like, oh, we've got the best stand-up in MMA, but we do still have great grapplers. Anyway, and then on subject of great grapplers, Gilbert Burns versus Gunnar Nelson. Oh, Paul Felder was so bad during this fight. Paul Felder. I wrote on Twitter, Paul Felder's commentary is like the guy at the pub who repeats the joke that someone already just told and everyone else has already just laughed at. And it turns out Paul Felder name searches because he was like, "Who are you?" and then proceeded to bitchily reply to everyone who replied to my post. And I was asleep at the time, so I woke up. I was like, "Oh, great! I got a direct line to Paul Felder. That's awesome." Very sensitive man. That's called punching down, because, you know, I am a lesser known presence than Paul Felder, so it's fine for me to make fun at him, hoping that he punches back. For him, it's a bad look to punch down. That's the rule of that. But then I shit on people who are... Well, I've been this week, like, I put up a Filthy Casual's Guide to Israel Adesanya, which you should definitely watch, because I have no idea how the YouTube algorithm works, and I put like 2 search terms in my tags. I don't bother doing those. So sometimes I get like 100,000 views, and sometimes I get like 10. Well, no, it's never 10, but it's like, you know, half of 150,000. You know, it surprises me which ones take off and which ones don't, because I was under the impression that Israel Adesanya was a bit of a star, but like the Dustin Poirier one did way better in the same space of time. But yeah, I put up one of those, and then someone said, "Can you do a Valentina Shevchenko one?" So I drew on paint on my tracking pad, is opponent attacking, and then 2 branches, yes and no, and then they both point back down to lean back plus right hook. And some dickhead who works for, like, I don't know. To be honest, I've never called myself an analyst. I do not like calling myself an analyst. I'm just a dude who writes about fights and happens to know a good amount about martial arts and combat sports. But there's like this whole breed of, quote, analysts now, and they all write for like MMA Globe or Combat World or some shit like that. They all have like 500 followers on Twitter, and anytime you make a joke, they're like, "Here's my chance to come at the king." And like, it's just, this guy's like, "Here's 3 clips of her not leaning back and check hooking Jack." And I'm like, you're actually giving me a counter analysis to my obvious meme. And then he's like, "Oh, backtracking now, are you, Jack?" It's just the dumbest fuck I've encountered this week. I was going to say ever met, but like, it's Twitter. Just everyone is dumber than the day before. So yeah, that's my Twitter beefs for the week. What was I talking about? Oh, Gilbert Burns versus Nelson. Yes, Paul Felder was really bad during this fight. I think it's because they got a good dynamic with Hardy and Gooden. They work really well together. And then you add a third person, and it's kind of almost harsh on Paul Felder that you're like, get in that beloved booth and try and make it seem like you belong there. So like, those two are joking amongst each other, and then Paul Felder will repeat the punchline of the joke. Like, "Ha yeah, lads." And you're just watching it going, "Oh god, that's bad." Whereas Paul Felder, like, it's hard because they don't have a place for him, because they put him with Brendan Fitzgerald, who has, you know, all the personality of a wank flannel. And that's bad for him too. I think he works best with like Dominic Cruz and Anik, you know, to take the edge off Dominic Cruz maybe. But it's weird. I mean, there's not an awful lot of good commentators, just generally. People were like, "Who do you think is a good commentator, Jack?" And I was like, come to think of it, there aren't any. No, I like Anik, I like Gooden, I like Hardy. Bisping isn't too bad, but they put him with Brendan Fitzgerald, so, you know, it's all a bit of, I mean, I like Rogan and DC with Anik. That's probably my favourite booth. Maybe DC and Cormier, but then it gets a little bit sort of like weird between them sometimes. Anyway, so yeah, this fight, the reason I'm pussyfooting around here is that it's not a very interesting fight. It didn't really, not a lot happened. Paul Felder was like, Gilbert Burns saw Gunnar Nelson win Abu Dhabi, and I was like, he didn't win Abu Dhabi. And he saw him win Abu Dhabi, and he thought, I can out-grapple that guy, so we got this match. He wants to grapple him. And then 2 minutes into the fight, he's like, of course, when you're two grapplers, you don't really want to grapple each other. You're like, oh, fuck's sake, Paul. What are you doing? But yeah, low kicks, as we talked about. I mean, Burns looked big. And he was talking about taking a middleweight fight on short notice after this, because he didn't look at all undersized in this fight. Gunnar Nelson, I mean, you saw exactly what I've said about Gunnar Nelson, and it's true about Gunnar Nelson. He's going to try and time the right hand, enter the clinch, and sweep, trip you straight over from there. And if he can't, he doesn't really have anything except the right hand. Like, he went back to his corner, and John Kavanagh goes, "Side kick's great," and he threw like one side kick in the entire fight. So yeah, like not really, doesn't really have a jab. Doesn't really use low kicks or anything too much, so he just ended up getting picked at by Burns on the feet. What else happened? Oh, Ovinson Prue versus Mikhail. I fucking never know this lad's name. But yeah, fucking Von Flue choke again. I did immediately go, who the fuck is still trying to guillotine Ovinson Prue? But he did actually jam his hands in position for this one. He reached over, smashed his hand into the center of his chest, and put his own head in the hole. So I don't think Michal, whatever, wanted to hold the guillotine. He was put in the position for it. Which reminds me of a lot of the stuff that Marcelo Garcia does, like when he's setting up his north-south choke, which you will never... Well, I was going to say you'll never see it in MMA, but Jeff Monson and Rani Yahya are pretty good at it, or Hani Yahya, whatever. But he would smash his chest into their near arm so that their wrist came in just a little bit so they could drop on their neck. You can do good stuff with shoulder pressure and smashing people's wrists from the top. Oh, and then Marco Madsen won the fight that he was supposed to win, so that's good. And then you had the Bellator cards. I mean, I could have a good laugh at Gegard Mousasi because after, building this fight up to be like 5 years in the making, I'm going to get my revenge, blah, blah, blah. He did nothing against Lyoto Machida. And then, in the last round, Lyoto Machida was the only one who did anything. Unless you count like top position when you're being guillotined and almost finished. Lyoto Machida should have won the fight, but, Bellator judges Gotta go for Bellator boys. So they did 30-27 for Gegard Mousasi. Fucking hell. What were we watching? Though one judge did give it to Machida, which is great. But Gegard Mousasi going life and death with a 50-year-old Machida. Not the best middleweight in the world. There's not anything else to it. The best part was people like... There's an amazing guy on Reddit. Victor something. Can't remember his name. He's a cool guy, actually. He was just saying that he is Armenian and no one has influenced his life quite like... the successful Armenian, Gegard Mousasi. So basically halfway through he admitted, my point of view is actually bollocks. I don't have an objective point of view. I just love Mousasi. But he was like, Gegard's going to jab his face off. And then the moment after the fight, he's like, well, if you thought it was boring, you don't know shit about fighting because that was what happens when two counterpunchers meet each other. You're like, Gegard Mousasi is supposed to be the best jabber in the sport. That's literally the opposite of a counterpuncher, you dipshit. And I'm saying that to everyone who said that because on the broadcast, they're all like, well, this is what happens when two counterpunchers meet each other. Like, fuck's sake. Yes, that was garbage. Patricio Freire beat Juan Archuleta. I like Archuleta, but Freire was looking really quite good. I would describe it as a fight that happened. AJ McKee got a nice knockout. That was good. And fuck all else happened. Antonio McKee fought a guy. They had a combined age of 98. Just standard Bellator. And then there was another card in Dublin before that where James Gallagher beat the scrub he was supposed to beat. Oh, and Michael Page. That was the big story of the weekend. Michael Page knocks out 3-1 scrub. Now 3-2 scrub. Teacher of some kind, primary school teacher, but apparently decently accomplished kickboxer. But when they said kickboxer, I think they meant like point fighter, like Page. But everyone knew this was bullshit before it happened, and then after it happens, people are still like, "Oh my god, amazing knockout!" And you're like, no, he just beat up a can. That's nothing, like literal can. It's one thing to be like Fernando Gonzalez, who's just not very good. But this guy had 4 fights, and he's fighting a guy who has fought professionally, been paid full-time to train full-time, and fight for the best part of 10 years. Just Scott Coker being Scott Coker. Just a trash human being, Scott Coker. Yes, it was big news because Dan Mergliata took a point for showboating, which I think you're technically not allowed to do. It's not in... Gentlemanly conduct is not in the rules. It is in football, because they disallowed a goal when George Best kicked the ball out of the keeper's hands because he was only holding it in one hand, which is technically allowed, or was at the time, and the referee disallowed it for ungentlemanly conduct. But he was probably drunk at the time too, George Best. But Yeah, no such rule in MMA. It's like when guys say stop talking. I don't think there is a rule about talking. There is a rule about spitting. Like, who was it? Oh, one of Israel Adesanya's first opponent in the UFC. He's getting beaten up and he just spat blood on him. And Dustin Poirier spat blood in the direction of Max Holloway. And they was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to spit blood at you. They were just like, it's okay, I understand. But yeah, and then after he did a stupid dance, and Dan Mergliata was like, stop being a piece of shit. And, we all agree. Michael Page was acting like a piece of shit for beating a nobody. But the thing that really bugs me about this is, like, this shouldn't have been sanctioned. And the people in charge of sanctioning in Ireland are, like, what they called, like, Scope. No, Scope is used to be called the Spastic Society. No, SAFE, I think it is. Whatever MMA organisation it is. And John Kavanagh is an important figure in that. John Kavanagh also allowed his fighter, Richard Keeley, with 3 wins and 1 loss, to fight a guy of Michael Page's experience. And, the whole thing about the SAFE thing was that there was a death in Irish MMA. Pedro Carvalho, is it? Died facing Charlie Ward, and it was a big deal. And they were like, we're going to do SAFE, and we're going to, because we don't have a proper licensing body, we'll make it safer, blah, blah, blah. So for Kavanagh to be part of that, and then go along with this, I think it's pretty damning. Not a good look for Kavanagh. And I respect John Kavanagh a lot, but that is pretty silly. And my boy Bendo beat Miles Jury. Yeah, there you go. So that was all that happened there. But ADCC, we'll talk about quickly, because probably not quickly. I'm probably going to wax lyrical about Lachlan Giles. But it was a great event. It started out slow. There wasn't quite like the shock of Craig Jones just running through the division that there was last time. Craig Jones did very well. Did he win his... No, I think Matthias Denise beat him in the final. But there were a couple of exciting ones. I don't think Lucas Lepre got his medal in the end, did he? He put Lachlan Giles out in the first round, and then he didn't get his medal. But the real excitement came in the absolute division. And it took me back to the days of Marcelo just murdering people in the absolute division. Because the absolute division should be won by a very heavy guy who's very good at grappling. And Lachlan Giles, who is... he was Craig Jones' coach. I think he's black belt under Kit Dale. Can't remember who's... Oh, no, John Wills, maybe. But training partner of Kit Dale. But he's been around for a while. I think he was one of the first Australians to qualify for Abu Dhabi. 2015. Oh, no, 2017. Well, whenever he did. But he had to qualify for this one, too. He wasn't invited. Craig Jones was invited. He's done well in, like, EBI and things like that. And he's mainly known for, like, putting out really good instructionals and a lot of free stuff on YouTube. He's just great. But he turns up in his division on the first day, in the first match, he goes out. And you're like, fuck, well, that's that for 2 years, and you've got to qualify again because you're not going to be invited back off that. But then they do the absolute division the next day. And he said that he was, like, encouraged by his coach to enter it because he's got a better chance of being invited back the next time, if he gets one good win in it. So he signs up for the Absolute, and the Absolute is normally just stocked with heavyweights and then the next class down. There's over 99 kilos, under 99 kilos, under 88 kilos, under 77 kilos, which is where Lachlan Giles was competing, and then under 66 kilos, which is the bottom one. And he goes in, and in the first match, he's matched against Kenan Duarte, who had just won the 99 plus kilos category. So that's the winner of the heavyweight category you get your first match against. So he comes out, and Kenan Duarte's a beast. He beat Craig Jones at Kasai, and he's beaten everyone. I think he beat Keenan a little while ago. Does awesome, like, cartwheel passes and stuff, takes people's backs off leg lock attempts, and Lachlan Giles just goes straight De La Riva when he puts his foot forward, underhooks the leg, starts turning over on himself, like inverting, and in the whole fight, match, whatever you want to call it, is just Kenan Duarte trying to push forward on him while Lachlan Giles is, like, on his head in a ball, and he spins through, gets the 50-50 position, and finishes the heel hook and taps him, and everyone goes mental. And meanwhile, Gordon Ryan's winning his first match, and in the absolute, after winning his division, which is the under 99 kilos. Next match, he gets another big lad, like champion in the gi, heel hooks him exactly the same way, and everyone's like going mental now. They're like, oh my god, Lachlan Giles! And then they see he's got Gordon Ryan in the next match, and you're like, oh, fuck. And he goes against Gordon Ryan, and they have a good little match, but then Gordon Ryan finally gets his back and finishes him from there. because Gordon Ryan's considerably bigger than Lachlan Giles and also the best grappler in the world right now. So it's kind of like, oh, damn, that was fun while it lasted. But then he ends up in the bronze medal match against Muhammad Ali, who is, I know, it's the same name as Muhammad Ali, but, it's spelt differently. But he is a brick shithouse. He was one of the biggest dudes. It was like him, Nicky Rodz, and Orlando Sanchez, probably the biggest dudes competing. Oh, and Buchecha. But absolute brick shithouse. And Lachlan Giles gets the leg, and people are starting to go nuts. And then he finishes the heel hook, and the crowd absolutely erupt. Like, they watched 12 hours of grappling over 2 days, and the last thing going on that day, they just go ape shit for. So Gordon Ryan wins the absolute, and everyone's still focused on Lachlan Giles anyway. It was hilarious. But then, Gordon Ryan won the absolute by, like, an advantage or whatever it is. It's a deducted point or whatever it was, because Buchecha sat guard or something, or stalled. I can't remember. But that was the big exciting story of ADCC, and I recommend you watch that if you can get your hands on it, because it's amazing. And the other really feel-good one was Gary Tonnen finally won the bronze in his division. Having, he was for a very long time obsessed with being like the best no-gi grappler in the world, and obsessed with ADCC, and he qualified twice, had great matches there. He went against Buchecha on short notice in the absolute one year. Like, he was in the stands, and they said, "Can Gary Tonnen come down and replace him?" And he ran down, took on Buchecha, who has 100 kilos on him basically, and had a great match. Had that amazing match with Crone, but didn't get anything. Came back the next year, didn't get anything. Makes his peace with it, goes off to MMA, is now fighting in ONE. He said that he had some contract dispute with them, or they're negotiating something. So he didn't. He thought he'd have a fight now, but he doesn't. So he got back to ADCC, who had already invited him, and he was like, "If there's still an invite going, can I come and can I come and compete?" They were like, "Yeah, sure." So he had an amazing match with Matthias Gamrot, who's I believe he's the current KSW featherweight champion. Had a great match. He had a great fight with Mansour, whatever his name was, that we were obsessed with the other week. Tonnen wins, goes on to a match with Renato Canuto, has the most exciting fight of the tournament. Loses to JT Torres in the next round, but then he fights Dante Leon for the third place, gets the bronze medal in his division. Then the next day he enters the absolute, goes against Edwin Najmi in the first round, and Kani Basami into heel hook right off the bat. Absolutely incredible. So he got his medal before that, but it's great that Gary Tonnen now has a medal at ADCC, and we got another wicked scissor takedown into heel hook out of it. But I mean, we were talking about trends, and the most interesting trend for me is that kind of shitting on the whole, all the best guys without the gi are the guys who win things with the gi. I mean, it's still true to a good extent, but EBI, I remember EBI was seen as like a runners-up thing. People were like, they're just putting together matches between guys who aren't great. I wrote a thing about Gary Tonnen a little while ago when he was winning all the EBIs, being like, he's the most exciting man in grappling. People were like, well, he can't win anything, so what's the point, aside from the EBIs? And then these guys came up through EBI, like Gordon Ryan was a replacement on EBI. And he came up and they just started leg locking everyone. And now it seems like, the stuff that makes you good in the gi doesn't always transfer straight over to no gi. And they interviewed Marcelo Garcia after this event, and he said, having had his student Matthias Denise win a medal and beat Craig Jones in the final, he said, the thing that most guys are doing for ADCC is treating it as a wrestling tournament. They're training their usual jiu-jitsu that they use in the gi or whatever, but they're focusing on the wrestling, so they end up in these shoving matches on the feet. And he was like, you should be working on getting your jiu-jitsu to work without the gi, and you should be working on that full time. Because Marcelo Garcia, if you didn't know, he's very big on always training gi and no gi. If you go to his academy, there's equal number of gi and no gi sessions all the time, whereas a lot of places do it once a week, no gi that is. And he said that it never mattered coming up to ADCC or something like that, because he was always working. He didn't have to change his whole style to get ready for ADCC. And he said that his last training session before whatever ADCC it was a gi session, and it didn't bother him. He just trained in the gi. And, I think that's a cool attitude. Partly that's treating it as it is the same, but partly that's also saying that you should be competent grappling without the gi all the time. You shouldn't be oh, okay. Well, I mean, there are guys who literally can't grapple as well without the gi, and there are people like Merigali. Merigali's an absolutely fantastic gi player, but doesn't even enter no gi stuff because he's so gi reliant. Whereas you've also got guys like Keenan who are gi heavy. They rely on the lapels and stuff when they're in the gi, but they have incredible success without the gi by just changing their game. But the point was, the best jiu-jitsu players in the world are no longer exclusively the best grapplers, and that's pretty cool. And also, we're continuing to highlight the shortcomings in the long-time jiu-jitsu training style of basically ignoring 50% of the human body. That was a thing. Actually, I was talking to a dude a little while ago at a wedding, and he had lived in Australia, in Melbourne, and I was like, "Oh, you should get down and train with Lachlan Giles if you can." And he was like, "Oh, really? I've seen them around. Are they really that good?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's really that good. I think. I think he's got a good chance in ADCC or whatever this year." And then he comes out and does amazingly. So that was making me feel very smug. But I got lots to catch up on ADCC. There was another guy called what they called the Ruotolo Kit Twins, Tai Ruotolo. But yeah, 16 years old and got to the semi-final and went against Paulo Miao and stuff like that. 16. Fucking hell. Especially when you got like Nicky Ryan there and John. He's been like 14 years old for the best part of 10 years now. It's like Oliver Tazza. They say that he's been training for 3 years for 10 years. Because just John Danaher's crew love exaggerating how quickly they've made progress. Oh, bonus, check out Gary Tonnan's hair for this one. He's done Wolverine, he's done things like that. This time he just looked like General Custer, actually. It was proper weird. Anyway, let's talk about the fights coming up this weekend. Just checking this one event to make sure that it is one of those one events that doesn't really mean anything. Because sometimes when one event comes up and you're like, fucking hell, are they fighting? And then other times you're like, oh no. Ryoji Kudo, with his 6-fight record, is fighting another unranked 6-fight fighter in the main event of this one. It's the Warrior series. Is that different to the Hero series? What the fuck? Anyway, UFC. And it's a pay-per-view, 243. Very, very weak aside from the main event. So let's talk main event. Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya. Now, I've written an article about this for Unibet, which you should probably check out. But, yeah, can't wait for this one. It's boy-on-boy violence. Israel Adesanya, boy of mine for a while. He used to tweet me back in the day being like, slacky nose, I'm working on my ring craft and stuff like that. Bit of a ledge. Real student of the game. And Robert Whittaker, obviously one of my favourites, just because he's had such an amazing transformation story. You know that I like these, I prefer guys who make amazing improvement on what they were to guys who just are what they are from the beginning, Dustin Poirier and people like that. But I think the crux of this fight, and I wrote this too, is that Robert Whittaker has done amazing things, but mainly against monstrous grapplers. Because that Jacare fight, Jacare's on the way down now, but that Jacare fight was huge. And then those 2 Yoel Romero fights are also just incredible performances to hang your hat on. Being able to stop Yoel Romero from taking you down and to get up from there and to, survive whatever it is, 40 minutes in the cage with him. 25 plus 25, 50 minutes in the cage with him. All very good on your record. But the last technical striker that the last person you class as a striker who Whittaker fought would be Uriah Hall. And Uriah Hall is nothing like the scientific striker that Israel Adesanya is. He's very one and done, looking for the big shot. He throws out the jab, but he's not building off the jab. He's not building feints and anticipation and things like that, or putting the jab in to get the right hand through, or putting the jab in and then hooking off the jab to confuse you, or jab low kick or anything like that. It's just, I've got an 84-inch reach or whatever it is. I'm going to pump this jab, and that works. It stunned Paulo Costa and all that, but it's not quite the same as what Israel Adesanya is doing, which is building off stuff, constantly sending out feints, checking what you're reacting to, and throwing stuff up constantly. Also, Uriah Hall lost that fight basically by just making bad decisions. He'd go for a spin, Robert Whittaker would step in, grab him from behind, and then it would be back body lock for the rest of the round. And in fact, I think the first round he loses by doing 3 jumping kicks, landing on top of Whittaker and falling over. And then Whittaker just goes, oh, okay, I'll have top position then. And before that, best technical striker Robert Whittaker fought, very different game, but Stephen Thompson, and the similarities are the control of distance. Now, Adesanya is taller and longer than Stephen Thompson, and he breaks offline every time that he is forced to back up, and that was what was troubling Whittaker in the Thompson fight. If you watch that Thompson fight, like, aside from the early finish, it's a back and forth one. They kick the shit out of each other. Like, I was surprised Whittaker's jab messes up Thompson's face in the course of like the 2-minute fight. Whittaker really struggles to like hold him down to keep on him and land better punches, but he does score the jab a lot. And then when he does score good punches are when Thompson will bounce a punch off his head and he'll grab him behind the head and just hit him with like 3 punches before he gets out. That Dustin Poirier thing, he did it to Joe Duffy. Like, if you're losing because of the footwork, then just grab a hold, grab a hold and hit. Can't do fancy footwork with a collar tie. I think that's the big issue. Watch the Filthy Casuals guide. The feinting and the distance of Adesanya are going to be a big problem. And we haven't seen an awful lot of Whittaker's offensive wrestling. He's won like the Australia Cup and shit like that. But that's with dudes who are willingly engaging you in a wrestling match. That's not with dudes where you have to dive across the ring to get to them. And I think that's the interesting thing. Like, he could put on a pressure fighting performance, but then you're making yourself a lot more hittable. Like he did against Thompson. He was walking forward and getting hit a lot more than than he does now, because now he fights more bouncy out in the open. One thing that I do like for Whittaker in this fight is that he's got a wicked left hook, and Israel Adesanya famously got caught with a counter left hook by Alex Pereira, who I will write something for the Patreon boys about at some point, because he's a monster and he just scored another awesome knockout in glory. But it was when Adesanya went southpaw, he'll throw this long flicking left, like straight, and then he'll be there for the counter hook. And Anderson Silva caught him with the same punch several times, actually. Didn't knock him out, obviously, but it's a good little opening. And I think the reason that it's there is because when you go to Israel Adesanya, he's very good about framing off you, and he's very good about not fingering people in the eye when he does this, by the way. Big fan of that. And he was talking to Herb Dean in, was it the Vittori fight? Oh no, it was the Tavares fight. Herb Dean was like, careful with your fingers and stop them, and was like, I'm watching your fingers, and he was like, I'm making sure that my hand is like fingers out to the side whenever I'm for hand fighting, stuff like that. He's very good at hand fighting, but he's always making sure that his fingers are pointing to whichever side of the head that he's on, like out, away from the head, and also that his thumb is in. And it's really noticeable when he kicks people in the body and then goes for the double collar tie. His thumb really obviously isn't in their face. He's putting his hands down the side of their face. And when he pushes off people, because he's been doing it since his kickboxing days, his he'll go across himself onto their collar, so that collar bone, that is, so that you're pushing one side away, you're keeping the other side deflected by the shoulder, nice high shoulder, basically a shoulder roll with the arm extended. Like I said, watch the Filthy Casuals guide. There is a ton of stuff on framing in there, but it's what caught my attention about him the first time that I wrote about him, which was like 2016. He was fighting Robert Thomas in Glory, and he was just framing off him every time he came close. But anyway, yeah, he's not quite as aware when he's opening up and going forward, and that's when he was getting caught with his counters by Silva and Herrera. Not saying Robert Whittaker should rely on a Hail Mary left hook, of course, but I do like the idea of trying to score it when Adesanya leads. The difficulty, of course, is that Adesanya tends to hide these leads well between feints. The thing about closing in on Adesanya, it's tricky because he's very good at never taking 2 steps straight back. He'll always cut off the line. He's very good at angling out. Like, if you get too close, he'll cut a tighter angle and just step round to your side and try and crack you as you follow him. But he's also very good with collar ties, like double collar tie. Same as Anderson Silva. He just catch that and try and knee you if you're getting close, because he's also quite tall for the weight class. 6'4", I think he is. And that's always a big help on knees, especially if you've got a guy like Whittaker who tends to lean in a lot too. Whittaker, I've written this before, but he's his striking is a weird balance between very smart and very wild. He'll do like 3 things and you're like, damn, Whittaker's looking sharp, and then he'll just lunge in with a swing with his chin way out in the air, and you're going, that's very strange. 25% of the time he's fighting hillbilly haymaker, and 75% of the time he's fighting smart. It's too much of the time that he's wild that he can't just be like, sometimes he gets wild. It's like consistently he gets wild, but he also fights very well. Some of the stuff he does that I really like is like that right front kick, the one that basically saved him in that first Romero fight. You know, he did better in the fight when he was on one leg than in the fight when he had two. Very strange, because he didn't throw his jab at all in that fight because he didn't want to put his lead foot back in his lead knee in front of Romero and get it kicked again. So what he was doing was he's leaping in with this right kick with the heel, like a front kick to the body. And basically, if he collided with Romero in midair and Romero was trying to stamp on his knee, he'd just lift him out of it, basically. He'd slam him backwards so that he never really came fully in on the side kick to his knee again. But he's been using that for a while, and what he'll do is he'll throw that right front kick, push him back with it, and then come in with a stepping left overhand in like a southpaw stance. Very cool way to shift in and make some distance. The other thing he does is he throws a right head kick or a right front kick to the head, or a right round kick to the head, and he'll put it down behind him into like a sprinter stance and bounce forward into like a left hook. Really like that. That's the one he caught Brad Tavares with. He did it with Romero as well. It gets in off his kicks quite nicely, which I like against Adesanya. I mean, Adesanya catches a good kick, but if you pull him into, if he pulls you into a close clinch and you're the guy with all the wrestling pedigree, I mean, that's not too bad. The real problem is if you kick, he catches it and he comes in with something afterwards. But I like kicking to get in on Adesanya. I think that's a good idea. I think if you're fighting aggressive and you're trying to back him onto the fence, those front kicks, they're not going to get you in trouble too much if you're clever with them. And kicking the legs, I think, is a big thing too, because a lot of Adesanya's answer to low kicks is to retract the lead leg, which should tell you something about when a kickboxer of that level is retracting his lead leg instead of trying to check. Should tell you that's probably the best way to deal with it. But that's a lot harder to do along the fence, and when you're nearing the fence and you're angling off, as Adesanya does, and everyone does when they get close enough to the fence, you start stepping out to the side. That's when your leg is just there. You can't remove it. If you're side skipping along the fence, there is a point where you can't actually put your foot any further back. It can't be behind you. So that's when you step in and punt the legs. And I always said that would be a good idea against Demetrius Johnson, because he really does do a lot of that circling off the fence stuff. And that's a good way to slow people down, of course. I think, like, what I concluded my article saying was that this is an attrition fighter in Israel Adesanya. I mean, he knocks people out, but like I said in my Filthy Casuals guide, it's things like the question mark kick. That's not a magic kick. That's just something he's constantly throwing and trying to misdirect you with. And if you take one over the head, you'll get knocked out. He lands quite a lot of strikes, whereas Robert Whittaker really more of a heavy hitter with his hands, at least. I think the thing that's happened to Whittaker, because I've got so many people asking me this week, like when I said I was making a Filthy Casuals guide this week, a lot of people were like, I don't want to know about Izzy, I want to know about Rob Whittaker, I don't understand why he's good. And I think rounding out his game has made him, in many people's minds, like a generic all-rounder, he's good at everything. And I think that can hurt you as like a promotable property. It's better to be like the striker who stops takedowns and knocks people out on the feet than it is to be like, he's good all round. I was not really on point with anything. I just think that's interesting that's how that's worked out. People need something to grab onto. But anyway, I was saying Adesanya's an attrition fighter, whereas Whittaker's an endurance fighter. They both do better work in the later rounds by tiring later than their opponent. I think Adesanya is typically better at chipping his man down. Once he's got him reacting to feints and covering up and stuff like that, he really gets to work digging the kicks to the body, front kicks and round kicks. Whittaker just keeps a great pace and is in great shape all the time. Something that I think might help Whittaker a lot in this fight, and you saw it in the fight with... both fights with Romero, is that he'll pick his leg up and cross-check, like for body kicks and head kicks too. And I think that's a good idea against Adesanya, because a lot of what he's doing is trying to dig in kicks to the open side of the body, and he'll use front kicks and round kicks off both stances with his left leg to dig those in. And if you've got the cross-check, we talk about this all the time, but with Badr Hari versus Semi Schilt and things like that, the cross-check is a nice one because it firstly is a big, bony check. Kicking a cross-check fucking sucks. But in addition to being like a belt and braces approach, what do you call it over there? It's got to be like belt and suspenders. But yeah, belt and braces approach. It also blocks the path of the front kick, which is quite nice. Whereas if even if you were checking with the same side leg, if you're picking it all the way up, you would still be open for the front kick. By cross-checking, you bring your knee across your body and you really shut down the space on the body that the opponent can kick. And I think that one of the things that we can say about Whittaker is that he's probably not worried about being taken down in this fight, so he can fully commit to things like cross-checking and then step in afterwards. If you cross-check and then you move in with a right hand, or you lunge in and come in with a left hook afterwards, great way to close the distance off a kick. And off a kick is the best time to try and catch people, obviously. Gotta say, one of the things that has surprised me about Israel Adesanya, going back and watching all the footage, very, very good guillotine. Like, he threatens that a lot. He'll snap dudes down and he'll go straight into what Danaher calls double enclosure. Oh, they're both New Zealanders, that's why. Yeah, double enclosure is what he calls it, but it's basically where you get not just like the wrist under the throat, but you get your your arm all the way through, and the back of your hand is on like their collarbone, so you can just snatch it up with the other hand and complete the choke. But he gets like that wrist really high, really quick. He's got a good guillotine. He turned over Brad Tavares, turned over Gastelum with it at one point. But he's done it to several people in the UFC, and yeah, it's pretty cool to have it. I mean, if you're a long-limbed, bony guy, that's a good one. Actually, guillotine is a Marcelo Garcia favorite because it is, it's bone on windpipe. So it's hard to not tap to that. It's not like a triangle where the length of your legs is going to stop you against certain people. If you get forearm on windpipe and you enclose their entire head, very hard to stop like someone tapping you with that or choking you unconscious. And one of the ways to stop it is you turn to your back, which is how Israel Adesanya has got on top of some of these guys without actually taking them down. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I mean, the level of both these lads, the level of the middleweight title fights we're getting nowadays is remarkable. I think every fight back to like Weidman Rockhold has been pretty fucking great for the middleweight title. Weidman Vitor, not so much. Weidman Machida actually was really good technically. But yeah, it's just been hit after hit. Like I said about the Yoel Romero Whittaker fights, I think I called it a once in a generation rivalry, but some of the highest level technical MMA that you'll see. That's happened so far. And almost no one saw it, which is really sad. And I don't think they're doing it any favours by putting this one on such a weak rest of the card in that regard. Whittaker not going to get many more pay-per-view buys. Israel Adesanya seems to be quite a popular character, so that might help. But there's just something heartbreaking when you see these amazing fights and you think that not as many people saw them as should see them. Like, anyone, if you showed them Whittaker versus Romero 1 or 2, or Adesanya versus Gastelum, they'd fucking love it. But I really don't think they've been advertised as well as they should be. Actually, I mean, the advertising is something that I've been, moaning about this week generally, because they keep putting up these posters, and they're all shite. They just put out the UFC 244 one, the BMF title one, and it's just like Diaz versus Masvidal in the font of an explicit, explicit content sticker, the tipper stickers. Prince's Darling Nikki, responsible for those, by the way, which is why it is the best song ever. I think one of the things that you could do as the owner or the company behind the UFC right now that would make everything more interesting is take the time to just hire several of the amazing artists that are out there putting out MMA themed work. If you had Jan Galang do a poster for a fight card, either people know who they are or they don't. And if you don't, you go, dope poster, I'm going to find out more about that. And if you do, you go, dope poster. It's so much better than just having two fucking photos of people. Why do you need the photos of people? If people know who they are, they'll know from the names and the drawings. You don't have to be completely cryptic like the Pride ones, or some of the Pride ones, but there are so many good MMA artists out there now, and if you just hired like 5 of them and kept them in rotation, you'd have amazing posters all the time for this shit. But what do I know? Anyway, let's look at the rest of this card before we fuck off for this week. We've got Ally Kinter versus Daniel Hooker in their co-main, and I quite like that. That's a good fight. Dan Hooker, I think the thing about Dan Hooker is that I'm starting to be concerned that he can't fight any other way than his own way, which works and is a very good way to fight, but like, there's people like Edson Barboza where they have such a glaring weakness in their game, and if you match your regular game against their regular game, they're better at it. That was what we found out. Edson Barboza is so fast out of range and so good at kicking you. And if you just had that adaptability to just press in and run him ragged, you might... I was going to say he might get hit more, but I don't think that would have worked out in the long term. I think he got hit more like trying to have a technical kickboxing contest with Edson Barbosa. But, his style proved absolutely perfect for making Jacasey look completely pedestrian. Jacasey, who's amazing spinning shit and counters, but Dan Hooker takes a step back and says, no, you come to me. I'm just going to feint, throw out some jabs, throw out some long kicks and things, and I'll just wait for you. And then by the end of several of the rounds, actually, well, there were 3 rounds, but 2 of the rounds, Jacasey's diving in for takedowns and Hooker's turning him over with a guillotine. And then he finished the guillotine at one point. So, he went forward a bit more against James Vick, but again, it wasn't really like a very aggressive performance. It was very much a Dan Hooker style performance. Obviously against Al Iaquinta with the wrestling there, probably don't want to be getting too aggressive. So it's more this is a fight where being Dan Hooker will help Dan Hooker more than being like wild aggressive. I'm sure he's capable of making the small adaptations. I'm just saying that like the Edson Barbosa one, a bit of a letdown because it is one where almost any top lightweight, by getting in there and just going wild at him, is going to have a better chance than by trying to kickbox him. But Al Iaquinta is a strange one because, he had Kevin Lee's number, and I think that is going to keep him ranked for a very long time, because aside from Kevin Lee, he's really not done a lot. He had like 3 or 4 years where he was just fighting old men. The UFC tried their hardest to get Al Iaquinta over. They had him against like Joe Lozon, who was already well past it, Ross Pearson. Then they put him in against Jorge Masvidal, and he won the giftiest of decisions. And then they tried to book him against Gilbert Melendez. Fucking hell. That's... Even at that point, Gilbert Melendez hadn't won anything in years. And then they put him in against Diego Sanchez, even worse. So really only recently got back to fighting proper lightweights. And 2 out of 3, he's lost. They had him booked against Paul Felder at one point. That would have been really fun. They had him booked again, unless Paul Felder told any jokes. This is my new beef now. And then they also had him booked against Gaethje. And, with how Gaethje's looking at the moment, you're thinking, I don't know if that would have gone great. I just think the thing is, like, Khabib and Donald Cerrone and Kevin Lee, like, when they met him, it was just like, damn, this guy's got the best jab. It's really because, like, Al Iaquinta only has the overhand and the wrestling, and that's about it. He's not a very technically skilled striker. I mean, he's getting away from Kevin Lee's punches by the end, but Kevin Lee fades very, very hard. He's my boy, but he does fade. Whereas Don Cerrone, Khabib Nurmagomedov came in condition, and they just kept the jab in his face. And, both those guys overnight developed the best jab in the division. Dan Hooker has a good jab. Dan Hooker works well at range with long straight blows, and with those low kicks and things. So I think he could skewer Hooker's face off here. Iaquinta's face off here. I think it'd be very interesting to see, when Iaquinta goes to the wrestling, how he can use it. And to be honest, he could step in on Hooker and try and fluster him, It's just that, like, by the midpoint of the fight, he's just doing that thing where his hands are both fists in front of his chest, and his head's forward and his chin's up, and he's, like, looking angry at you. He's hulking up, but it's not, like, good striking. I think Al Iaquinta, like, what was I talking about the other day? Someone was complaining about the rankings, and I was like, Al Iaquinta being overranked got us all of this. Or is responsible for everything. Yeah, Tai Tuivasa versus Sergey Spivak, fucking hell. Sergey Spivak is not good. I've seen all his regional fights, they're not great. It's just regional heavyweight talent beating up scrubs. And then his first fight in the UFC, he got sparked very quickly by an okay heavyweight. Tai Tuivasa is a very middle of the road heavyweight, so, they'll probably have a regional heavyweight fight. Then Luke Jamu, who I can't even remember seeing, versus Diego Lima. Fucking hell, this card gets better. Oh, Jake Matthews is on it. There we go. That's good. And then Megan Anderson is fighting some guy that they just brought in to lose to her. How funny would it be if Megan Anderson loses yet again? But yeah, so that card is straight garbage. Oh, well, this was the card that Holm versus Pennington was supposed to be on. Oh, I would have saved it. Oh, and she's done she's big in Australia for beating Rousey there. But anyway, main event is basically all you're paying for there. And Dan Hooker. And Hooker Iaquinta, I suppose. But, it's not a good card. And then you got a Bellator card going off, which is Koreshkov versus Lima, which we all love. Not Lima, sorry, Koreshkov versus Larkin, which we all love. Lawrence Larkin in a weird place because he had those 2 back-to-back losses, fought Fernando Gonzalez at the point that Bellator were then like, fuck off, Fernando Gonzalez, we're done pretending you're good. Then he fought Ion Pascu, who no one had ever heard of. after being booked to fight Eric Silva, and now he's fighting Andrei Koreshkov, and this is actually a good fight. Koreshkov, meanwhile, got choked out by Douglas Lima in the tournament, then fought Mike Jasper and won a decision. You got Mr. Spinny Shit versus Mr. I suppose also Spinny Shit. Larkin's good fun. I did a boy watch on him a while ago. He does that cross hand trap and all sorts of stuff. Really relies heavily on the low kick and just the right low kick generally. Often thrown naked. Loves his stomp to the gut. He'll bring his leg out wide like he's throwing a low kick and then bring it up and bring it in and crescent kick it in straight. And he's got a good left hook too. Koreshkov's got a nice high crotch actually that was the time that he got the better of Lima. He hit this high crotch all the time, and then Lima was not having that the next 2 times they fought. Then what else is on that card? Sadawad versus Goti Yamauchi. Both decent fighters, actually. Joe Schilling's back, if anyone was asking for that. And fucking Gilbert Melendez's wife. Oh, and Anatoly Tokov, he's good. He's fighting someone that you've never heard of, who's number 6 in the Middle East, Europe, Western. Okay. Standard Bellator. I mean, I actually almost care about the Bellator more than I do... Oh, Derek Anderson's on the card, he's alright. I almost care about the Bellator more than I do the rest of the UFC card, aside from the main and co-main. Never really good. Anyway, I reckon that'll do us for today. I will be back on Monday. I definitely will be back on Monday this time. Had some shit going on, but I will be back on Monday. I have done some articles this week and a Filthy Casuals guide this week, and there's some Patreon stuff coming this week, so check all that out. If you want to get on the Patreon, help support the show, do that. If you want to send an email to the podcast, fightsgonebypodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to see what I'm writing at any time, fightprimer.com. I'm your boy Jack Slack. Paul Felder's shitty jokes bless.